We begin with the latest on Sheffield Wednesday and the possibility of a takeover. According to The Guardian, the American businessman John Textor has teamed up with football financier Keith Harris in an attempt to buy the club. Harris has brokered takeovers in the past at Man City, Aston Villa and West Ham. Textor already owns Lyon, Botafogo and Belgian side Molenbeek. He, of course, very recently also owned Crystal Palace before selling a share last month. What do we think, Justin? Is this good news? Question mark.
I think so. It's hard to tell what is good news when Chansiri still owns Sheffield Wednesday, because you could have the richest person in the world interested in buying Sheffield Wednesday who's got wads of cash and everything to back it up, but Chansiri is just so much of an unknown. It's really hard to actually sort of go, I don't know, but I think I've said it before, things are moving in a direction they need to go in. Is it a positive direction? We don't know, because all that hinges on a certain football owner who's very difficult to deal with. With John Textor, he's now spoken very publicly, which, based on prospective owners doing this in the past, when they speak publicly, they're trying to, I wouldn't say hurry the process, but they're letting everybody know, and Chansiri know, or the seller know, I should say, that they are interested and they want to buy the football club. So John Textor speaking so publicly is a positive thing. And this news wouldn't have been leaked for no reason. There's a reason to it, and I think it is to put a little bit more pressure on the seller, which you could see as a step forward.
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about John Textor to properly judge him, but I hear very few good things about him, particularly from Andy Brassel on the continent, our fellow show here at Stack. And if the Lyon debacle is anything to go by, it doesn't seem like he's a great football owner. The problem is, on the Chansiri scale of football owners, he looks like bloody Mahatma Gandhi. So anyone is an upgrade on Chansiri, really. The thing I've always said, though, is Sheffield Wednesday don't want to be going from the dumpster fire to the bonfire. When a club is in a very vulnerable position, like Wednesday are, there's always going to be vultures circling around who, believe it or not, are not much better than Chansiri. If you dig far enough, you'll probably find something you don't like about every billionaire. Mm-hmm. John Textor's got his flaws, which are a lot more public than most, but he's also probably a lot better than others are. My big issue is it's more to do with multi-club ownership, because I think we're seeing more and more cases of that not working and one club ultimately being prioritised over others. That's where my main concerns lie with him, Justin.
Yeah, I agree on multi-club ownership, and you are right. Andy Brassel with on the continent does speak a lot about John Textor, very detailed as well. And there'll be more to come for it. Hopefully the process goes along and we can sort of speak a little bit more on John Textor and how we feel and think about him taking over. But I don't think the argument should be, well, anything's better than Chansiri, because a football club shouldn't settle for anything's better than the very lowest expectation possible for a football owner, if that's even possible. You need a football owner who's just willing to embrace the actual club culture, not change it, embrace it and take it forward, and put in a sustainable strategy. I don't want to blow the trumpet. I know we've criticised David Clowes a little bit with Derby County, but he's an owner who's gone about things a little bit more carefully when coming out of this situation, i.e., administration, financial issues, and that's something that needs to happen. We can't have a new owner coming in at Sheffield Wednesday and throwing money around. It needs to be a careful strategy. There needs to be infrastructures put in place at the football club that Chansiri has neglected, which goes down to just stadium maintenance. There's a lot that needs to change, not just what is on the pitch. So, as long as John Textor speaks the right things and does the right things, that's all you can judge him by. He's not really done it in the past. That being said, he's a guy with a lot of money, and that is beneficial for a football club.
I take issue with you saying we've criticised David Clowes, but we'll leave that there. Even if it's John Textor or not, it seems like there are a lot of parties interested in Sheffield Wednesday, which can only be seen as a good thing. Hopefully the right one takes control of them. Rather bizarrely, though, if you look on John Textor's Instagram and scroll down far enough, you see pictures of him playing Fortnite, which is not something I expected.
No, I did see one comment, and there's a bit of dark humour about Wednesday's situation, but it said that it's fitting that he's playing Fortnite because that's how late the wages are usually being paid, which, as I say, is a bit of Bit of dark humour around a tricky situation from a Wednesday supporter, but yeah, it's random. Not only to see a billionaire playing Fortnite, but also just to see someone middle-aged playing Fortnite. It's worth pointing out as well that those posts were in 2018, so it was at the height of Fortnite before it became a mess, an absolute mess it is. But that's a story for another day.
You play much Fortnite?
I've not played Fortnite probably since John Textor.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was in 2018, and I remember playing it a lot when I was still living in Norwich back in 2018. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for Textor in that sense. But as far as the playing squad at Sheffield Wednesday is concerned, there's been a mixed few days in terms of news. It looks like they'll be without Nathaniel Chalobah for the foreseeable future, the top goal scorer this season. The manager, Henrik Pedersen, said he expects him to be out for a considerable amount of time after the midfielder went off injured against Leicester at the weekend. He posted on Instagram saying, "Devastated was an understatement." At the weekend, when the Wednesday team was announced, some were saying it was a lot better than they expected, Justin. The problem is, an injury like this, there isn't exactly much in reserve when you go past them, is there?
No, there isn't. There's no way of sugarcoating it in any way. It's disappointing news because with Chalobah, you've got a player there you absolutely need. Obviously, he's a physical body in amongst a club that is lacking the human beings to be able to play football, but he's experienced and he is a quality player when fully fit. I think if it wasn't for his he dislocated his knee, didn't he? He was in and around the England setup when that happened back in 2018. Gareth Southgate really liked him, so it just goes to show how injuries can take a toll on a player. It was a while ago now, bearing in mind, but it's a shame for him because I think he's come out as quite positively in a situation at Sheffield Wednesday that is a difficult one. But obviously the perfect scenario for Wednesday is they go for a season with players avoiding injury, and unfortunately it's a very precarious one. So if they do lose someone, and they lose someone with the significance and the experience of Chalobah, it's going to be a blow.
Yeah, well, I've been giving it some further thought since Sunday. I think that game may be a microcosm of Wednesday games for the foreseeable future, where they're able to compete initially early on in the game, but as it wears on, you look to the bench and it's just kids. Whereas Leicester were able to bring on the likes of, Fass, Harry Winks, Patson Daka. So Wednesday desperately need bodies, but it looks like that may be happening. That's because the Sheffield Star is reporting former Leeds captain Liam Cooper could be joining the 33-year-old as a free agent after leaving CSKA Sofia in Bulgaria. 2 embargoes were lifted last week, meaning Wednesday can now sign free agents and loan players. A few potential loanees have been linked recently, including Manchester United defender Harry Amass. Meanwhile, the Sheffield Star also says Max Lowe is set to stay at Hillsborough. The defender was reported to be one of those considering walking away from his contract after multiple months of unpaid wages, but he's now believed to have committed his immediate future. So a lot of positive news coming out for the first time in a long time, Justin. What do you think to all that?
Well, just to be linked with players, I imagine is nosebleed territory for Wednesday fans after the summer they've had. But it is positive news, and in amongst the sort of John Textor interest, it's just a nice scenario because we were going through days and days and days where it was just negativity. So with the Cooper link, as plain as it is, he's a 33-year-old, whose injury record at Championship level has not been great in recent years, but at the end of the day, he's 33. He's experienced. He's a leader. He could be a very good spokesperson as well in the media for a club in a situation like this. I think that would be important somewhat. And of course, they are batting in a market where most players that are links are not going to be fancied. But with someone like Cooper, I think if they can get him registered, he would be a good asset in a club in its current plight. Absolutely. Yeah,
well, he's a leader, isn't he? He's a dressing room character as well. I don't know what level he is as a player nowadays. I'm not sure it's a great one based off the past couple of seasons, but Wednesday just need bodies at this stage, which are over the age of 21 and have recent experience of playing in the Championship. Just anyone will really do at this stage, and anyone who isn't commanding a big wage. And I think Liam Cooper ticks those boxes. From his perspective, it must be a weird one because he's being asked to sign for a club where he knows there's a chance. At this stage, we don't know how big a chance, but there's a chance he won't get paid at the end of the month. But if he sticks around in the second half of the season, they could be a competitive team. Whether they still have a chance of staying up, probably not. But he can play a role in that. And the same goes for Max Lowe as well. Quite a coup, really, for Wednesday to keep him. He was being linked with other clubs, so for him to stay, it's really good going.
Yeah, well, obviously, when the Max Lowe news dropped sort of a week or so ago about players that are currently at Wednesday that are wanting to put their notice in to leave because of the wage issues, you fear the worst a little bit in that scenario. But I think that speaks to a better dressing room atmosphere in amongst adversity. And with Liam Cooper and Max Lowe together, actually, obviously it's massive that they've kept hold of Max Lowe, because I think on his day he can be a very capable Championship defender. But also, what that tells you is that there might not have been interest in Max Lowe, just to be a bit cynical. So therefore, staying at Sheffield Wednesday is probably the better case scenario for him. And obviously with Liam Cooper as well, it's a chance to play at the highest level possible. And it's the same with Max Lowe. You don't want to be dipping into League One at this point, especially if a Championship club is interested in you, even amongst the current circumstances. So, it's their opportunity to essentially better themselves in a scenario that's going to be a very difficult one to navigate. But fair play to them for wanting to choose Sheffield Wednesday to remain.
I think Max Lowe, if he did leave, he would definitely get a Championship club, no problem whatsoever, because I think he's a very good Championship defender. But he must have been made some promises regarding a takeover. Speaking of which, The Athletic say the government is fast-tracking the new independent football regulator, so it will be in place by November. Richard Monks is set to be announced as the CEO. He spent 18 years at the Financial Conduct Authority. Under a new bill, the regulator will have the power to strip owners of their right to run clubs, and it can also sanction takeovers at a price of their choice. And that's very good news for Wednesday, Justin, because it's basically saying to Chansiri, sell up now or we'll make you do it in a few months.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, weirdly, the FCA, a very tough organisation. I've worked exclusively with financial planners, and restrictions are they're tight. You have to make sure the language is perfect. So having someone with that background coming in and essentially laying down the law is going to be important, but it's going to create that accountability for owners as well, because I think the EFL to an extent are powerless because how league voting works. So like you said, there's a situation coming in where there's someone that's going to be, government sanctioned, saying not word for word, obviously, you've fucked this, you need to go. You wouldn't say it like that, and that's definitely not office talk. But I think Chansiri having someone to answer to at that level is going to be important, because, as I say, Chansiri's not going to get the price he wants, and he's not going to. He feels like he doesn't want to leave until he gets the price he wants. But there's a business here at stake of becoming extinct, and from a financial point of view, like Richard Monks is coming from, he's going to want to put a stop to that.
Well, the EFL, everyone keeps saying the EFL need to step in and try and save Sheffield Wednesday, but quite often in these scenarios, the EFL can't do much. The football regulator, from the sounds of it, will be able to do something from it. The latest reports I've seen are that Chansiri is still asking for 100 million. How much evidence does he need that he's asking for way too much? It's absolutely mind-blowing. But if the regulator is in place by November, that should mean that Wednesday will be looking at a takeover before the end of the year at the very latest, because as time's gone on, it's been an increasing worry of mine that we could be stuck with Chansiri running things for the entire season. So this is very good news. Slightly concerned about whether Chansiri will simply roll over and allow the club to be sold for way below what he thinks is a fair asking price, but fingers crossed he'll sell before then for the good of everyone involved, including him, I'd say.
That's the thing, isn't it? Chansiri is such an unpredictable and volatile character and personality that, is he going to answer to a full regulator? That's the other question. Is he going to sit there and go, yeah, sure, fine. Yeah, you're right.
It sounds like
Absolutely.
He'll have to, but I'm just thinking, legally, will he lie down and let it happen? It is my question.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of this conversation is in theory because we just don't know what powers are going to be able to be,
It's unprecedented territory, isn't it?
Exactly. We're in a scenario that we've not been in before. Firstly, we've been in it with rogue owners, but someone coming in and just a regulator as such, it's difficult. As I say, it's unknown territory, but in theory, everything should line up. But everything crossed, absolutely everything crossed that Sheffield Wednesday is sorted, or at least the ball is rolling before Richard Monk's, the government regulator, foot regulator, is in place.
Justin, let's have a quick break. After that, we'll talk about some transfer news from across the Championship. But just before that, 5 in 10. Name 5 Scottish football clubs that aren't based in Glasgow.
Wraith Rovers, Berwick Rangers, Inverness, Aberdeen, Dundee United.
Very good, Justin. Caught you off guard there. I think it gave you a bit of time by stuttering over the question.
Name 5 Scottish football clubs that aren't in Scotland. Oh, fuck then.
Yeah, I had a little reminder pop up on my phone this morning saying 5 in 10. Oh. So you can see that coming back every week now now that the season's underway again, because I forgot to do it over the summer, so that's just something to keep you on your little tootsies, Justin. But now we'll take a break. After that, we'll talk about the transfer news from across the Championship. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. We're here to talk about all the latest news from across the Champo, but may I take this opportunity to point everyone in the direction of the latest video on the Second Tier YouTube channel. I've created the ultimate Championship League table prediction. I've looked at what other content creators on the Championship are predicting and then took the average position of each team before merging them all into one, thus creating the ultimate league table prediction. And let me tell you, Justin, some of our fellow creators have made some absolutely mad shouts.
Yeah, it sort of made me feel that we sort of were maybe a bit too balanced. But the one that caught my eye was Benjamin Bloom putting Stoke where I wanted to put Stoke in 9th, but I wasn't brave enough. I was a coward with Stoke.
Stoke 9th is mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. One person had Watford to go down, and I would say that's the tip of the iceberg. Because there were some interesting shouts in there, but I think everyone involved very knowledgeable on the Championship. Not as knowledgeable as us, Justin. Let's not get that wrong. But make sure you go and watch the video. Always fun to see what others are predicting, of course. And if you haven't listened to our league table predictions yet, make sure you go back and listen to that for a good idea of where we think your team is going to finish this coming season, as well as getting a good preview of every team across the Championship. Let's talk about some transfer news then, Justin. And Ipswich Town have finally confirmed the signing of Chuba Akpom from Ajax. The 29-year-old joins on a season-long loan with an obligation to buy for £7 million if Ipswich get promoted to the Premier League. We briefly spoke about this on Friday, Justin. Is he the striker they so obviously need in your eyes?
Well, yeah. Interesting way of phrasing it with Chuba Akpom, because he's not your typical number 9. He's a guy who would be better operating behind George Hurst, for example. So that's where we saw him at his best under Michael Carrick in that second striker role, and that's perhaps why Birmingham are after him as well. So maybe not the striker they need, but certainly the goal-scoring threat they need. His ability to play off a forward player, his ability to play the 1-2s, the intricate 1-2s in and around the box is going to be really pivotal, because I think what I expect to see against Ipswich this season is a shift in just how teams are going to play against them. Essentially, they're going to play deeper. They're going to play difficult to break down. So having someone like Akpom in there who can play those intricate passes and 1-2s and get shots off is going to be so important. So yeah, definitely the goal scorer they need.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to see how they shape up in the long term, because as you say, he had great success as a number 10 at Middlesbrough, but I assume he's been brought in as a number 9. Whether that's his best position, only time will tell, but that's obviously where they need to strengthen, and that's where he traditionally plays, isn't it? But I think it should be a great move. Like I said last week, I was under the impression that it's not really worked out for him since leaving Borough, but he has been averaging a league goal every 148 minutes at Ajax and Lille, where he was on loan last season. So a great finisher, really good passer of the ball, and then capable of leading the line physically as well. A front two of him and Sammy Szmodics could be really, really nice this coming season. So, yeah, I imagine it'll be him and then Szmodics just behind. I might be wrong on that, but I assume that's how it's going to be. But Akpom, I definitely wouldn't rule out that signing being a really, really good one for Ipswich, particularly under Kieran McKenna, who we all know is very good at getting the best out of players. Meanwhile, Omari Hutchinson sat out Ipswich's Carabao Cup tie at Bromley on Tuesday after telling McKenna he didn't feel like he could contribute. It says the attacker has been linked with a move back to the Premier League. The 21-year-old missed Ipswich's game against Birmingham on Friday with a throat infection, but McKenna confirmed his absence on Tuesday wasn't related to illness. What have you made of him avoiding playing on Tuesday, Justin?
I mean, it's Bromley. It's a League Two side in the League Cup. Do you want to, after a throat infection, do you want to go and play? I wouldn't.
Get some lozenges down you. You'll be fine, lad.
Some lozenges down you, Omari. You'll be fine. I think it's perhaps, it is important to consider the fact that when there's a lot of speculation surrounding your future, it can be difficult to get in the right mindset. And I know I mentioned League Two Bromley, but it's going to impact your mindset playing against the League Two side in the first round of the League Cup, a game that typically, with the greatest respect to the competition, isn't going to matter in the long run of the season for a Championship side. And therefore, Omari Hutchinson, especially with Premier League clubs after him, he's not going to be in the right mindset. So I do take some sympathy there. The reason why I take some sympathy there compared to others is because I think with Hutchinson, he's not throwing his toys out the pram. He's not pulled in Alexander Isak, has he? He's not refusing to play. He just said he couldn't contribute. And I say off the back of throat infection.
It sounds like he's refusing to play, Justin.
He's just said he can't contribute. It might be just he's feeling a bit after his throat infection. We've all been there.
Well, you say League Two Bromley in the Carabao Cup isn't a big deal, but Ipswich have got Southampton at home this coming weekend, which is a much bigger deal for them in the grand scheme of their season. And I assume he's not going to be involved there either. And I do think it's a shame when players do this, because it is not just Hutchinson. You've got a similar situation seemingly happening with Tyler Dibbling at Southampton. As a player, you signed a contract for however many years to be at that club. In my view, you should continue playing for them until you're sold. When you signed a contract, you gave that club the right to play you and then sell you at whatever they think is a fair price. If they think you're worth more to them than what other clubs are offering, why should they sell? And effectively going on strike, which it sounds like, in my view, that's what Hutchinson's doing. I don't think it's the answer. I know it's been a thing for many years in the Premier League, but the fact it's now seemingly becoming a thing in the Championship seems mad. And if I'm looking at it from Hutchinson's perspective, what better way to put yourself in that shop window than knuckling down, getting on with it, and then playing brilliantly for a few games with the transfer window still open. It's very frustrating for me, Justin, when I see something like this happening, particularly at this level.
I just think it's modern football, and it's something that we need to accept. Just because contracts and well, yeah, I think contracts they're there to be honoured at the same time, but also we don't know what conversations go on behind closed doors. We don't know whether the club has said if a suitable bid comes in, you can go. And ultimately, when a team goes down and gets relegated, and bids are coming in that maybe you as a player and your agent would deem acceptable, the club can move the goalposts. I think there's more nuance to it than probably what we're describing. So I think it's just a very, very delicate and complex situation that we will never have enough insight on to actually pull a conclusion out. But ultimately, if he does sit out and refuse to play, then we can be critical. But my understanding, my takeaway is he's not refusing to play. It's a different kettle of fish playing in a league game than it is a midweek first round League Cup game. We'll see what happens at the weekend. We'll see how he handles it at the weekend, whether he's involved or not.
Well, it sounds like he is refusing to play, if you ask me, just based off what McKenna said. But we don't know how he's, delivered that news, I guess, to McKenna, for the lack of a better way of putting it. Let's move on, Justin, to QPR, who are set to sign Wycombe striker Richard Kone in a deal which could be worth £5 million. Various reports say it's around £3 million up front, with the remaining in add-ons. The 22-year-old has also been attracting interest from Leicester and Swansea. He won League One Player of the Season and Young Player of the Season, scored 18 goals last season. QPR, I'm trying my best not to neigh again, Justin.
Yeah, it's better for everyone if you don't, to be honest. I love this. I absolutely love this. For $3 million up front and the rest with add-ons, I'm wondering why more clubs haven't just thrown the checkbook. Well, yeah, you get it. Thrown the offers in, essentially. Knowing that Swansea have been interested, but they haven't followed up their interest. And even Leicester, for £3 million up front, it's just a no-brainer. it's a no-brainer. I know people will say, he dropped off last season towards the end of the season, but from what I've read, it's tactical from Mike Dodds, i.e., stopped getting the best out of him. I think he's as complete a number 9 you can get, and for what QPR are getting him for, it's a massive coup.
Yeah, it's a pretty insane rise for him. I was reading up on him. He grew up in the Ivory Coast and was actually made homeless as a teenager. And that led to him coming to the UK as a 17-year-old for the Homeless World Cup. He then played for 9th tier Athletic Newham for several years, up until January last year when he moved to Wycombe. So he's 22 now and only been playing league football for a year and a half, but he's been, by all accounts, very, very impressive for Wycombe. A real all-rounder, very quick, very strong, great in the air, can score with both feet, can hold up the ball, and still only 22. He's got a serious amount of room to grow, and I've been saying QPR are my dark horses for the season, but they definitely still needed a striker. This is one hell of a way to fill that gap. So now, I'm even more excited, Justin. I may even let out a little neigh.
Go on, just do it. Just get it out. Yeah, perfect. I don't think I need to add anything else. Let's just end it there. It's easy to get excited because of the front 9 that QPR have put together, and then when you add a nice little bit of what's a nice thing, garnishing on top of this absolutely delicious, sumptuous thing QPR have got going on in Richard Kone. It's hard not to be excited.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of service from that attacking 3 behind him, isn't he? So now I'm looking at QPR's outfield 10, because I've still got slight concerns about the goalkeeper. I'm struggling to pick issues with that, hence why I continue to be very hot on QPR. No. And the other thing I would say actually is, considering QPR sold Charlie Kelman to Charlton for virtually the same amount that they've reportedly paid for Kone, and they're getting someone who seems on the face of it more championship ready physically, seems like an unbelievable bit of business. Southampton have rejected a bid of £30 million from West Ham for midfielder Mateus Fernandes. The Athletic say Saints value the 21-year-old around the £50-60 million mark, and there'll be no further talks unless the clubs get closer to that ballpark. I'm very aware of what I was just saying a second ago about Omari Hutchinson, so I'm trying not to contradict myself here, Justin. But it says a lot about the state of football finances that relegated sides nowadays can afford to reject 30 million and actually demand nearly double that.
Yeah, the demands are there to put clubs off, aren't they? Because they want to retain these players. Because all logic would tell you that Mateus Fernandes isn't worth 50 to 60 million pounds. Southampton paid 15 million pounds for him. And he was one of their better players in the Premier League, but was he good enough to quadruple his value? I don't think so. So you are right to sort of bring up the fact that these parachute payment clubs can afford to reject these bids when in previous years they would have to be accepted because the clubs need affordability. So that tells you I have Southampton got those contracts in place where players will have relegation wage drops. Are they running that way, or are they just taking a swing on automatic promotion this season? We won't know, but it's interesting to know that that's the current state of football finances. That clubs in the Championship can afford to reject a £30 million bid.
Yeah, well, based off the two options you just said, I would say it's probably the former, because 15, 20 years ago, I remember when a club got relegated, it meant they would have to sell all of their best players, almost to the point where they were a completely unrecognisable side. In the last 10 years, clubs would usually sell 1 or 2 of their best players, and that would be enough to tie them over. But now it seems relegated clubs don't need to sell anyone unless they want to. Ipswich lost Liam Delap, I'm aware of that, but that's because he had a release clause. Southampton have sold some players, but I don't think any of them had long-term futures at the club, plus their squad is seriously bloated as it is. Leicester are probably an exception to the rule because it looks like they need to sell to cut down on the wage bill for PSR reasons. But otherwise, I think this is just another symptom of the gap between the Championship and Premier League. And that's why there's a worryingly good chance we end up with the same teams just circling between the Prem and Championship for the foreseeable. On Fernandes, it sounds like West Ham are very keen. So Southampton may very well get a figure of some sort before the window closes. And it'll probably be a lot of money just to nicely line their pockets. Meanwhile, speaking of Saints, they're in talks with Coventry over a deal for Jack Rudoni as a potential replacement for Fernandes. We spoke last Friday about this and said it would be a serious signing for Southampton, Justin. It would also be a serious blow for Coventry.
Yeah, a player who's scored 10 and assisted 12 last season. You're losing him with, 2 weeks of the window left? He's irreplaceable at this point. So I feel like from a Coventry point of view, you've got to slap a 50, 60 million pound price tag on him as well to just award teams off, all clubs off, because Rudoni's set piece delivery, physically, he's perfect for the Championship. His technical quality on the ball, he's by far, for me, my opinion, Coventry's most important player. He was the difference maker for Frank Lampard last season, and a key reason as to why they were edging games. So to lose him now, as I say, with just a couple of weeks left this transfer window, I think would seriously harm Coventry's chances of finishing the playoffs. That's coming from someone who predicted them to finish in the top 6, even under Frank Lampard.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that, Justin. I think players like Rudoni are the hardest to find in the Championship. Yeah. Someone who can provide that X factor in the final third. It's a lot easier when you're in the Premier League like Southampton were when they got Mateus Fernandes, but for a Championship club, it's hard unless you've got Premier League money like Southampton have. Now, Coventry obviously struck gold with their last two number 10s, Rudoni and Gustavo Harmer. But getting another one who's effectively ready-made for getting a playoff place is going to be very, very tricky. And you say Coventry should just slap a big price tag on them. Can they really afford to do that? Because, they're trying to compete with these big boys who've just got a lot more finances. They can't do what Southampton have been doing and rejecting £30 million bids, can they? If something like that comes in for someone like Rudoni, then they are absolutely going to have to take it, unfortunately. But that's just... As I say, that's just the state of football finances, unfortunately.
There's an interesting point there that if Doug King, the Coventry owner, does ultimately reject that Jack Rudoni bid and they keep hold of him, I think that's a bigger sign of ambition than going out and signing 2 or 3 players for £3 or £4 million each, because you're saying no to a 10, 15, £20 million player. We don't know the value yet. You're saying no to a club putting in that bid who are desperate for a playmaker themselves, who are also pushing for promotion themselves. That would be a serious show of ambition if they do keep hold of Jack Rudoni.
Let's go up the M69 to Leicester City, who have sold Mads Hermansen and Wilfred Ndidi in the past week for a reported total of £28 million. You're impressed by my motorway knowledge there, aren't you, Justin? Look at me. But it looks as if more departures are likely in the next 3 weeks at the King Power. 21-year-old midfielder Bilal El Khanous is believed to have a £25 million release clause and is reportedly interesting the likes of Leeds and Newcastle. Meanwhile, Abdul Fataru has been linked with Everton, and Harry Winks is believed to be interested in the likes of Brentford, Fiorentina and Valencia. So it looks like Leicester will make a fair bit of money this window, Justin. The problem is I'm not seeing an awful lot of activity in terms of players coming the other way.
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback from Leicester fans suggesting that we're a bit harsh on them, but I think almost this is what we could foresee when sort of making our predictions and critiquing Leicester, is that they're going to lose players. Don't get me wrong, if they manage to keep hold of El Khanous, Fataru, Winks, and a couple more come to the end of the transfer window, then sure, you've got a really good chance of finishing that top 6. But again, you've got 2 weeks of the window left. Clubs will know what you're selling players for, so the players that you're interested in, their values are going to go up. It's going to get harder to negotiate. This is the worst time of year to be smart with your business, and Leicester are in a position where they have to be smart because their financial situation is just an odd one, a really, really odd one. So yeah, this is very precarious time of the season for Leicester. We've only just played one game. Weird to be saying that, but yeah, if they do sell players and ultimately can't get them in, yeah, big XL from me is all I can really do to describe that.
Yeah, well, we don't know how much spending room there is with PSR rules this season, but surely with the amount of money they'll be making, they'll have some room for manoeuvre. They'll need some because there might not be any players left at this rate. El Khanous, I was expecting to go anyway, so that won't be a huge surprise if that does happen. Fataru would be a big blow because he's looked really bright since coming back from injury. If they lost him and El Khanous, then Leicester would be looking very short in attack. They'd hopefully strengthen if they were to leave. But do I have great faith in Leicester's recruitment? Pass. is what I would say on that. Hull have strengthened up front. They brought in Ollie McBurney on a free transfer and got back Joe Gellard on loan from Leeds. 2 very good moves, Justin.
Yeah, two very good moves, smart moves as well. Joe Gellard has a high ceiling still, despite it's felt like his career's stuttering a little bit, but he looked very dangerous off the right last season. Ollie McBurney's going to score you double figures, but his role in build-up play as well is crucial. He's very good with his back to goal, despite him not looking as physically demanding as other number 9s. But his role as a number 9 is as ideal as you get. And as I say, I think he will score double figures for whatever club he plays for in the Championship, and he's going to contribute off the ball as well. So yeah, two very good signings, 2 smart signings. I think it's easy to be excited with Hull's squad because it is a good squad, but as I say, just the uncertainty everywhere else doesn't fill you with too much confidence.
Yeah, well, I completely agree, Justin. Like a lot of Championship clubs, Hull could have really done with a striker, but they were perhaps one of the more desperate ones. I don't think their squad is actually that bad, something I keep saying, but striker was clearly an issue. And that's because the only one they had was Cal Joseph, who's struggled since moving there in January. I think McBurney's a great move. I think he's quite an underrated striker at this level, really. Offers a lot physically. And Joe Gellard stood out for Hull last season on loan. As I said earlier, I looked at the league table predictions of a load of other content creators, Justin, and I was the only one who had Hull to stay up. I think their squad, especially with these 2 new signings, is getting more towards mid-table. It's just, as you say, with the off-the-field issues, how much will they affect them going forwards? And who stays for that matter, because that's going to be a big issue as well, with some being linked with moves away, the likes of Ivor Pandor, Charlie Hughes and Abu Kamara. Can't really afford to lose any of them, but might have to with the concerns which have been raised about the club's financial stability, Justin. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. Obviously, you're bringing in some key players, but there's some players there that have contributed massively to last season who have been linked with moves away. Obviously, we know that Hull value Charlie Hughes very highly, up in the region of £20 million as a quoted fee, which is interesting. Abu Kamara grew into the season last season under Ruben Sayers, but it never really established himself, and obviously now he's been linked with a move away. Could see his exit at Hull. So it's an interesting one certainly, but again, it'll be good to see what Hull's squad looks like come the end of the window, because obviously they're signing players, but if players are being linked with moves away, perhaps there's a bit of a balance in that financially that's being done there as well.
Yeah, well, they're still being linked with players coming in, so I mean most of them are from Turkey, as usual with Hull. So it's always very hard to say what the squad's actually going to look like come the end of the window. By the way, I was watching the highlights of Wrexham v Hull in the Cup in midweek. Hull's away kit is absolutely sensational. Have you seen it?
Is it the all black one?
It's black and it's got like orange pinstripes, I think.
Yes,
it's absolutely gorgeous. Oh,
correct me if I'm wrong. It's Kappa, isn't it?
Pass.
If it's Kappa, say no more. That's it.
Well, there you go. But yeah, very, very nice away kit. And finally, Preston manager Paul Heckingbottom has criticised a personal trainer after an injury to Daniel Jebison. The striker's going to be out for a month. Heckingbottom said, "I'm really angry about it. It's an accident, I get it, but it's not happening anymore with any Preston players. If we injure players or they get injured in a game or in training or in our gym, then it's on us. But it's us that suffer, so they're not punishing Preston anymore. It's not happening." The personal trainer in question posted saying he's just as upset by the situation, but called it an unfortunate accident, not as a result of unsafe, inappropriate or poorly prescribed training. What a bizarre story, Justin.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I feel for the personal trainer because I watched the clip of him talking about it, and Daniel Jebison tripped over something that he could have done it at home. It's one of those. It just sounded just as unfortunate. And likewise,
and Paul Heckingbottom would start kicking off about coffee tables, wouldn't he?
What is it with these fucking coffee tables? Why has everyone still got coffee tables? Paul Heckingbottom or like Paul Heckingboomer? Fucking hell. Get a grip, man. Yeah, I'm just imagining the personal trainer industry is just up in arms now. They're going to come for Paul Heckingbottom. He needs to watch his back there. Not suggesting there's going to be violence, but if there's a plate dropped on him at a gym somewhere, there's a reason why.
Oh dear,
sinister.
Sounds very sinister. I will be honest. I don't know much about fitness to comment on this, as you could probably tell just by looking at me.
You play paddle, don't you?
Yeah, but I usually do it because the ADHD in me actually means I can just focus on hitting a ball over a net, and I don't have to worry about lifting weights or anything like that. But I guess it's a good thing that Jebbison wants to keep training outside of training with the club, because it shows he wants to get better, and he's putting in that extra 10% or whatever. But I guess it does also increase the chance of injury. So I don't really know. It sounds like it was an honest accident. I thought it was a bit nasty of Paul Heckingbottom to name the PT involved. Yes. That felt a bit unnecessary. Yeah,
he didn't need to do that. I can understand why he's frustrated and why he's disappointed, but ultimately this can happen anywhere. Daniel Jebbison could have been training on his own, and it happened. And then what are you going to do?
Didn't David James get injured reaching for the remote? Was it him?
There was a footballer as well who got injured via a poached egg. I think it was Kirk Broadfoot. Like an egg exploded in his face. What's Paul Heckingbottom going to do in that scenario?
Yeah, that sounds right, actually.
It'll go absolutely on Blackburn, because they're owned by Venky's, who, of course, big chicken business. So there's an in there. You know, everyone's at risk of Paul Heckingbottom and a minor inconvenience.
So what's the Venky's got to do with this?
I was just making a link from eggs to chickens.
It's the most vague link I've ever heard in my life.
It absolutely is. With the Heckingbottom thing, I'm just saying that anything that inconveniences Paul Heckingbottom, you're in trouble.
Let us know, ladies and gents, what is the most bizarre footballing injury that you've ever heard of. In just the comment section below on YouTube, or secondtierpod@gmail.com. Let us know. We're very interested in that. Or I assume you're going to say what's the most bizarre injury you've had in general. Is that what you're going to say, Justin?
In general, because I've had some weird ones. I broke my finger gardening. I tried to dig out a tree root and went too hard, and the neck of the handle crushed my finger, and it was literally like my finger was stuck. Yeah, it was a pretty nasty one. And that was only 2.5 years ago, so it's a strange injury. I'd like to know more about our listeners' strange injuries.
Yeah, I'm interested in the football ones, because the football ones are really, really funny because they have serious implications at the end of them. But let us know whether you've got a favourite footballer injury or just a funny injury in general. secondtierpod@gmail.com, or by just messaging us on any social media site that we're on. Ladies and gents, this has been a news roundup of everything going on from across the Championship. We'll be back again tomorrow for the preview show, where we'll be looking at all the action from across the Championship for the second game week of the season. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.